Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Meant for More Mindset. So today, I've got a guest. I've got Dion here with me. Dion, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Hi guys. As you know, I've been on the podcast before with Yar. So I am Dion. I am a therapist, and I'm also the founder of Love Learns, which is a community of people who are interested in learning more about love and how to implement it into life.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you for being here. So we've decided to kind of team up. And in terms of teaming up, we want to talk about the different areas of how we see ourselves and then how that then affects us in relationships. So today we're talking about
the need to be liked.
Okay. So why do we have the need to be liked? So I think the reason why a lot of people want to be liked is we seek value and validation from others. So it's that whole idea of if somebody values us in a certain type of way, then that makes us valuable, as opposed to actually being able to value ourselves. So what would you say in terms of needing to be liked? Has it been something that you've experienced, suffered from?
I think yes. In the it's human nature for everyone to want to belong to something, to a community, and stems back from just being humans and having to survive. Like the need to be liked is needed, but it's not needed in the sense of when we overdo it. I think everyone wants to be wanted, but from going from wanted to needed is where the issue starts to happen. And I think for me personally, I have been in situations where I've always tried to push for people to like me if I felt like there was a disconnect or there was a sense of, oh, there's something wrong here. I always wanted to be like the favorite, the nice one, the one who wanted to kind of get on with everyone, just so that there's no conflict. And I think for me, in those sense, it was trying to avoid conflict and also get validation from it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially when you talk about avoiding conflict. Because I think a lot of people really give a negative connotation to confrontation.
Yes.
And when people give a really negative connotation to confrontation, what tends to happen is that we avoid it. So like you said, we want to be quote unquote seen as the nice person, then that can also become manipulative. And I think that's also another side of needing to be liked as well, is you then become codependent with it. And so you then kind of start thinking like, well, if I show up like this, then I will get this and this and this from it. So you become controlling, and it tends to suffocate who you really are, and also suffocate you in relationships and the other person, to the point where the relationship becomes almost negative as opposed to a positive one. And when I even say relationship, it's not just a relationship with others, it's also the relationship with yourself. And so it's almost like, so it becomes almost like a drug. So you constantly need even more to be validated. And so you go to the greatest lengths and do the sometimes really, really, really silly things in order to be liked, really. So yeah.
And with even the fact of like the relationship, it's with yourself. A lot of the time it's you're shutting down who you really are in order to please someone else. So for example, there's like things like you don't like going out for sushi. This is a very simple example, but because a lot of your friends eat sushi, you also go just to be with them. So you do little things like that, and you're like, but I don't even like it. And you're spending money on something you don't like. This is a small like way of just illustrating how it looks. But it can go to the extremes of doing wild things, like maybe you don't like drinking, but because your friends are going out drinking, you get drunk, and then one thing leads to another. But because you wanted to just be in the group, wanted to just be with people, you kind of just neglect your own needs in those moments rather than speaking up for yourself. And the more you chase it, as you said, the more you chase it, the more you it gets worse, and it's just more and more things that keep on shutting you down. So you tend to like stem away from who you are, just because you have a bit of a layer to you. And the thing is, when you're trying to please everyone, where you go to different groups, you look different. So you turn into this chameleon of, in this area I have to look this way, in this area I have to look this way, and then you slowly start to build personalities around that, rather than just being your authentic self.
Yeah. And I remember I used to think to myself, like, because I used to definitely do it. When I was doing it, I definitely felt like I actually felt like a pretzel, like turning myself into something all the time in order to be able to fit, in order to be able to seek belonging, and validation from others. And it wasn't until I really took a long, hard look at myself and said, okay, what do I really want, and what do I really look like, and who am I really? And I think the hardest part of that is not knowing, like in the beginning, not knowing what I wanted, not knowing what I actually liked, and actually being able to communicate that firstly with myself, and then even then it took me a while then to learn how to then communicate that to others in a way that I didn't feel bad about, because it's that thing of where, will I be seen as a bad person? Because like we said earlier, the whole thing of wanting to be a good person. And so then will I be seen as a bad person if I'm now not doing the things that people want me to do? Or I felt that people wanted me to do. And in a lot of cases, you realize your friends just care about you. They're not interested in whether or not you're a good or bad person, because nobody's wholly good and nobody's wholly bad. So for me, what I realized was the most important thing was really and truly learning to love myself and like myself for who I am. And that required me to be honest with who I am, really. And then you figure out that that's a journey within itself, because in every season of your life, you're going to look different. And also, even within those seasons with different people, you look different as well. Yeah.
And I think with that need to, every relationship's going to be different. So you're going to show up differently depending on the relationship that you have with that person. For example, if it's just a stranger, you're not going to give all of you to that person. But if you are very close to someone, they know quite a lot about you, there's things you'll open up to them about. But I think where it stems away from being healthy and like changing not changing, but like guiding where you are with people, is when there is like an aim for this person to see you in a specific way. And then things kind of like, it's like a target that you're trying to get this person to behave in a certain way, which is the manipulation part. So I think even in life that we are going to present differently to different people, but I think where it gets a little bit more complicated and a little bit more distorted is when you do it with an intent of something happening at the end of it. So it might not be anything like physical or anything, but you having the sense that someone actually likes me and I want them to have a certain image of me is how I'm going to portray myself. And I think with building the understanding of yourself and having a true understanding of who you are, when you do go into those relationships, and you will bounce back and forth, especially if you're in the journey of healing. You sometimes you'll be trying to please people, and sometimes you'll be back into yourself and trying to stay in the boundaries of, I'm just going to be myself and allow them to accept me for who I am. But the only way you can allow someone to accept you is if you accept yourself. And I think a lot of the time people look outwardly for acceptance rather than inwardly. And I think because it's so much easier for people to like you than for you to like yourself. Because if people like you, that means you have evidence that, okay, I'm a nice person, or I'm a good person. But for it to come internally, you're going to have to accept all your flaws, and you know your flaws better than anyone else knows you. So when you are with people, you can mask those things. You can be a different version of yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're in yourself and getting to know yourself, you start to recognize all the flaws about yourself, and you have to learn how to accept them, how to work with them, how to appreciate them, because a lot of the time those flaws are also helping you in a way.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the times people are too scared to do that.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what you were saying about when you're healing, you 1 minute you're up and then the next minute you don't feel so good. But what I think is it doesn't matter whether you're healing or not, because I think that's everyday life. Everyday life is that 1 minute you're going to be up and 1 minute you're going to be down. And I think when you recognize that within yourself, then you're able to show up better for yourself and for others. And then also understanding that the same scars you have, other people have scars too. So it's that thing of, I think the whole idea of wanting to be like comes from this thing. If I show people the best version of myself, then they'll accept the best version of myself. And then that's where you get scared to present the bits of yourself that aren't so good. But what I've realized is that people can see through those anyway. People know when you're putting on, because you can't sustain it. And also, two, you're human. Nobody's great all the time. Nobody's up all the time. And so I think the best way for you to be able to show up for others really and truly is learning to show up for yourself, and understanding that some days I'm gonna not feel great, some days I'm gonna cry, some days I'm gonna be on top of the world, and it's fine however you show up, because you're human. And also with that comes the ability, which I think a lot of people find hard, especially women, is this whole idea of asking for help. So, and I think once you're able to get to that point to realize I'm not perfect, I don't have it all, I've never had it all, I'm never gonna have it all. But within that, because I know that I need to ask for help, and these are the areas I need to ask for help in. And then also you learn to give help as well in a way that helps others, not judges others, but actually just says, I want to help others, I'm gonna help you. And also allow people to ask you for help, as opposed to, oh, I can help you. And so it's really, 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 really important, I think, to learn the importance of loving yourself, really, really and truly. And I think the best way to start with loving yourself is accepting who you are in all areas of your life, and not seeking out to kind of fix yourself, because there's nothing really to fix. Like a term that a lot of people use is brokenness and being broken. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think that anybody's ever really broken. I think people are just going through, and as they're going through, they're figuring out. And as they're figuring out, there's always going to be ups and downs to figure out, because that's life. And I think for every person that's living, you realize today is the first day that they've ever lived this life at this particular point in their life. Yeah. And so once you realize that, you realize everybody's going on a journey. It's as you become an adult and you realize, oh, my parents didn't know what they were doing. They were just winging it. And then you realize the reason why I know that's because I'm now an adult winging it too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think with the whole brokenness thing, it's not even like like, I hate that saying, I'm not gonna lie, because it's just, you're not broken. It's like, you don't know what you like. If you're using something that you don't know how to use it, you're going to think it's broken, but it's not broken. It's just you don't know how to use it. So it's learning how to use that thing. So there's a different part of you that you've discovered that you don't know how to use. So all you're doing with that is trying to learn how to use that part of you in this season. And that's all it is. But I think because we're so used to things being shiny and so developed that we instantly think, oh, okay, it's not working, so that means it's broken, let me discard it. But if we be curious about it, learn to love it, learn to explore with it, learn to just develop an understanding of what it is, and then work from there, I think there's going to be more understanding of who you are in that season. And the more you learn about yourself in that particular brokenness, the more you'd recognize how far you've come, how far you have to go as well, because there's a development happening in this season. Every like product that we have has to go through development stages, and as humans, we're also going through development stages in every part of our life, every day of our life.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that I'm developing, I'm learning, I'm growing, and it's okay for me to do that.
Yeah.
And it's okay for people to see me in this particular season.
Yeah.
But the whole need of it being shiny is what's putting people off. And I think that comes from the distorted idea of community as well. Because as you were saying, like, asking for help and needing help.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget that the reason why we wanted to feel belonged is because we needed community, and the need of community is for everyone to help everyone else out.
Yes.
But I think because we want to be, I think there's also a power ego struggle within communities where people want to be the best within that community.
Yeah.
They have to present a certain way, and it's not about that. The community is for everyone to pick up where other people are falling short. So if I'm bad at this, but I know Ya's good at this, I can speak to Ya and say, okay, Ya, could you help me with this? And if Ya's good at bad at something, I'm good at something. We swap ideas, we swap things and develop together, rather than it being a competition between two people. That competition doesn't need to exist. It just needs to be a sense of acceptance of what you're good at and acceptance of what I'm good at, and using that to grow the community. But I think a lot of the time we're competing against each other when there doesn't need to be a competition. Yeah,
and I totally agree with that. And I think that's a really, really good segue into our next conversation, which is about how wanting to be liked shows up in relationships. So we'll see you for the next episode on Dion's podcast, Love Learns. And so we'll see you then. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. For more about me, what I do, check out my website, nextlevelcoachinggroup.com, where you can also download my free Release Your Mindset Blocks guide. You can also follow me on Instagram at Next Level Coaching Group, or on Facebook at Next Level Lounge. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating and review. Thanks. See you on the next one.